Will they bring soccer with them?
Flashpoint today at 10 on Local 4.
More savings, more style, more holiday at Art Van Furniture. Price cuts up to 65% off store-wide. Last chance to save an extra 15% off the sale price. Plus, no interest for 18 months or choose an extra 20% off the sale price. And final day for delivery by Christmas, guaranteed. Free TVs, win $10,000 cash. Bailey sofa and love seat sets, $4.99. The 3-day holiday sale at Art Van Furniture. Sunday, extended hours 11 to 9.
Celebrate life's special moments this holiday season at AE Jewelers.
Don't miss Inside Edition Monday at 4:30 following Local 4 News. First at 4.
Will we add NBA and MLS to the NFL, MLB, and NHL alphabet soup of sports in downtown Detroit? Palace Sports and Entertainment's Arn Tellem is here to talk about it. Plus, lame duck Lansing and the horrors in Aleppo. Today is Sunday, December 18, 2016, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. 1 week to go before Christmas Day, so we are in full bustle, and that certainly extends to Washington. Tomorrow, the Electoral College meets to put the star on top of this very contested and very divided tree. I don't know that as Donald Trump was announcing his appointment for Secretary of State, we needed a reminder of the complicated world in which we live. But just about the time the appointment was landing, on Twitter, of course, the city of Aleppo, Syria, was being taken over by government forces working in tandem with Russian troops, while some of the rebels were taking to social media to say their poignant final farewells. Assad's Syria and his allies in Putin's Russia. Yes, they are heavy symbolism of the world the president-elect inherits. We're going to talk about that this morning. We're also going to talk about a lame duck session in Lansing that was, well, rather lame in the eyes of some. Not much coming from the State House. Is that good or bad? But up first, we're going to talk about a big piece of the Detroit picture for 2017. The Pistons are coming back, or at least that's the plan. The council still has to sign off, and if you were with us last week, you know that's not a done deal. Is it good policy? Does it make sense for Detroit enough to put tax dollars at work for it? Up first, Arn Tellem of Palace Sports and Entertainment today on Flashpoint. Well, when they write about Detroit development 2016 down through the years, no doubt a big part of that will be the chapter of the return of the Detroit Pistons to downtown Detroit. If it happens, that still has to be approved. Let's talk about this morning with the Vice Chairman of Palace Sports and Entertainment, Arn Tellem. Arn, thank you very much for coming this morning.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's first off, we do have to, I guess, dispense with, I had 2 city council members here last week who said they're still waiting to see what happens. It'll be in January as you make the case. Do you expect any bumps in the road as you try to make this final appeal that you have to make to get through city council?
I think once we lay out the full details of the plan and its impact on the city, I anticipate that the city council will embrace it. It's a great thing for the city that we're coming downtown. The economic impact is really significant, and I think it just gives real momentum to the continued revitalization of Detroit.
There are a lot of people where it still sticks in their craw when tax dollars are used for this kind of a project. Unlike Joe Louis Arena, there will be no revenue stream for the city with this new arena. As glorious as it is, a lot of people would say, look, somebody like Tom Gores has $35 million in his seat cushions. It doesn't need to come to taxpayers for that. And how do you respond?
Well, this is really DDA funds. It's refinancing bonds, and the bonds are required to go to infrastructure and economic development in the district. So it's serving the point of making the facility, acceptable for NBA standards, so we can move in. And really what we're bringing as far as economic impact is roughly $600 million in return. So I think for the city, this is an incredible deal. They're getting an NBA team and $600 million of impact, and probably over 2,000 jobs that are going to come with it from construction as we build our practice facility and move all of our people down here, several hundred employees that are going to be full-time down here now working in Detroit, and our team paying significant income tax to the city of Detroit. So I think the economic plus is a huge win for the city.
A lot of people are dubious, though, about the idea of these sort of big sports arenas. Obviously, yes, we are all sports nuts in this city, but the return on the investment, a lot of people are a little skeptical as to whether or not it really turns over.
I think there's two great examples that Detroit should look at. One is Los Angeles and what Staples Center has meant to that area of Los Angeles, and the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C., and what that impact has had. And I think they are really good examples of what this can mean here. And as far as Los Angeles, where I'm from, Staples Center was in an area that everyone had written off. And no one thought was even possible to develop. Not only did they put an arena there, but now it's much more than an arena. There's a lot of retail, there's a lot of residential. People have moved into that area, it's vibrant, and it's filled every night, not just with sporting events, but entertainment and things going on. And the same as with the Verizon Center, which was right near the White House, but in an area that everyone else had written off in D.C. that they thought was, could never be developed. But once they put the Verizon Center in, and over the last 20 years, it has become the center point of entertainment and sports in Washington, D.C., and has taken away nightlife from Georgetown. And no one thought that was ever possible, but it really has become one of the exciting destination points in Washington.
In fact, one of the things that I think a lot of people have found to admire in this plan is that it is more than an arena. The Ilitches have really tried to create a district, a neighborhood. There's a lot more thought into this than just where they're going to play hockey and now where they're going to play basketball. Was that part of the attraction to you all, or was this really as simple as we need to be downtown playing ball?
Well, no, what the Ilitches are doing is incredible. It's such an ambitious project. It's larger than Greenwich Village, what they're undertaking, and it's going to have a lasting impact. And I think when you see, first off, all 4 sports teams sort of playing in a concentrated area in downtown Detroit, in the center core of the city, plus with the Fox Theater and all the concerts that are going to happen at the new LCA, with the resulting restaurants, bars, nightlife that's going to be built up around it, and residential, I think it's just going to be an exciting, vibrant destination for the city, and will be the cultural, sports, and entertainment hub of Southeast Michigan, and for the state, really.
You made the point recently that you're really hoping that you can find a way to keep ticket prices in line. A night out at a ballpark used to be something that a family could enjoy a couple of times. Now it's out of reach for a lot of people.
No, our goal is, first off, I think when we made this decision to move, I think it was, we wanted to satisfy our fans and future fans, and we'll now be playing in Detroit, where I think it'll be more accessible for a lot more people to come to games. 2, I think we'll price our tickets accordingly to make it accessible for our fans. It's a win for our franchise and for our players and for the future of this franchise, and most importantly, it's a huge win for Detroit. To have us down there. And I think it validates all the great things that are happening in this city, and I think it'll serve as a catalyst for more good things to come in this city.
Is there any bumpiness you expect between sharing this with another team? Everybody obviously would like to decorate their room the way they want it to be decorated. This will neither be exclusively Red Wings nor exclusively Pistons. You got to find a way to make everybody happy.
Well, I think every relationship requires sacrifice, and on both sides. And I think that's the spirit. We both are committed to making it work. They've been a pleasure to deal with. And I think what got us to this point was that we really, over a long period of time, over this past year, working with the Ilitches and Olympia and all their entire team, we've developed trust, mutual respect, which I think is essential to having a deal work and having it succeed as we now enter into its execution stage.
Once Tom Gora's moved in now with the Pistons, I kind of thought, well, if you're in a little in downtown, you're probably all in. We've already watched he and Dan Gilbert trying to team up together on a soccer team. I talked recently to somebody who was approached about putting a business on the east side of downtown Detroit, around Greektown, and he told them, well, we really don't know what's going to happen yet. And he was told, yes, we do. There's going to be a soccer field there instead of the jail. Now, this was just 2 weeks ago. Is that still going to happen?
Look, I can't speak for Dan, and we're trusting Dan, and it's hard to bet against Dan. But we're very optimistic. We're working very hard with Wayne County, and I think we'll know in the next couple months that we hopefully can arrive at a mutually acceptable solution to allow soccer to allow a soccer stadium to be built there, and we're very optimistic that will occur.
So when we heard a couple weeks ago that the plan was to restart construction on the jail site where it is.
At some point that may be their plan if a deal can't be reached, but we're optimistic that as we go through these next couple of months, as we look at what we're contributing there and the alternative cost of finding another site, that we'll be able to make a deal that works for both sides. Well, tell me about your outlook then for soccer in Detroit. We've watched what happened with the Detroit Football Club on a smaller scale, no doubt, than what you would need for it to succeed in Major League Soccer. But are we ready to become a soccer city? Is it all there? Detroit, it's all here. Detroit is a great sports town, as you know, and there's great interest in soccer here. It has a huge participation of any sport. It's one of the largest participations of any sport in the state. There's great interest. There's a lot of young people moving back into Detroit, and those are the people that are supporting the MLS teams. And I think we'll be able to create a great atmosphere if the stadium is built at that site for fans to be able to walk to the game and sort of recreate a European experience, which is what they're looking for. So I have no doubt the MLS will be a great success here, and I know the MLS believes it. Yeah. We have great ownership. We have people who are committed to doing it right and building a successful franchise and serving the fans and the community. Last thing I want to let you weigh in on. I think that there's always been a fair amount of suspicion among Detroiters about the billionaires amongst them. First it was Mike Ilitch, who was the only one doing anything downtown. Now it's Dan Gilbert, and now Tom Gora is going to be a presence here as well. How do we sort of marry these ideas that success in one area doesn't necessarily mean not success somewhere else? How do we keep that suspicion, I guess, from really overwhelming the fact that we've got an awful lot of power and money concentrated in just a few people? Well, you got to judge the people ultimately by their actions, not just their words. And I think if you look at what we've done over the past year alone, that we've been really committed to doing right by this city. Put aside the move, we've really engaged with the community. We've really formed, I think, a half dozen or so key partnerships with many philanthropic organizations that are doing great work in the city, like PAL, like City Year, Say Detroit, Grow Detroit's Young Talent, and we're committed to doing more. So what I would respond is we're all in on Detroit. We're going to do right by the city, and we believe doing right by the city and being socially responsible is good for our organization and good for the basketball team. All right, I've really been looking forward to drilling down on this with you. I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much for being here. No, thanks for having me. And we'll continue with more on Flashpoint right after this on Local 4.
This is good. This is better. Come to Maddox Chevrolet and brighten up your season. Right now, you can get an Equinox LT for an unbelievable $68 a month, a Cruise LT for only $68 a month, or a Silverado Double Cab LT for $207 a month. Give yourself the gift of the year's lowest prices. Get to I-96 and Telegraph and let Maddox light up your season with a brand new vehicle.
It's better in every way at Maddox.
It's never been easier to shop Carson's for the holidays with buy online, pick up in store. Shop for what you want when you want it. Simply shop Carsons.com, select pickup in store, and place your holiday order online. We'll contact you when your order is ready for pickup at your nearest store in as little as a few hours. Plus, with our dedicated pickup service desk, it's never been easier or faster to order today and wear it tonight. Carson's, your store, your style.
For 85 years, the Capuchin Soup Kitchen has been serving people. But we're more than just about food. We nourish people by
distributing clothes and household goods,
growing food on our urban farm,
stretching children's minds through tutoring and the arts,
challenging addictions and helping reclaim lives,
offering new starts through job skill training,
working for a more just, peaceful world. Contributions are needed. Please send yours now.
Monday, regular people compete to achieve their dreams. It's the premiere of The Wall at 10. Then at 11.
It's the season for giving, which means precious presents delivered by the truckload. But the extra steps one company is taking to get you your gifts on time have some customers concerned.
And when I opened the box, the bottle was completely broken.
It's so expensive for shipping that I wish they were taken more care of.
The defenders exposed the delivery decision that could make or break this Christmas.
Monday at 11 on Local 4 News.
All right, welcome back. A lot to talk about with my two Flashpoint chums, Nolan Fenley from the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson here from the Detroit Free Press. Let's start coming off that conversation with Arn Tellem. Should there be any reason, now that we understand that there is another $35 million of taxpayer money involved in all this, Stephen, is there anything here you see that should keep the council from approving this, though?
I think there are some questions to ask, as there always should be, about public money for private enterprise. I mean, that's happening more and more frequently as we get further and further into the redevelopment of downtown and midtown, and it glares ever more brightly as the neighborhoods feel more and more left behind or left out. And so, look, this is a stadium for a billionaire, and now you've got another billionaire who says, well, I want to play in it too, but you got to give me some incentives as well. That's always worth sitting down and really asking, is this the best use of public money, or should we pair it with something else that directly benefits the neighborhood?
But it's difficult with money that's hard. Some of it's hard to earmark it for much else, right?
Well, I mean, you're talking about two people who think nothing about writing a check for $35 million to buy an athlete who may or may not work out, and then continue to pay him while he's sitting at home watching the games. I just don't think they can make a case that in a city and a state this strapped for money that we need your public bucks. I think they would be doing a lot more public service and doing more good for the city if they said, this is our team, our development, we're going to pay for it ourselves.
I get nervous when you guys agree about things. But that's kind of where you are, I guess. Another area, though, I think that you're in agreement. I referred to it being a sort of a lame duck session. There wasn't a lot to talk about, but on Thursday, the energy piece of this, which is, I guess, what some people held out as maybe the only thing that could come out of it, was on its way to the governor.
Yeah, and I'm on record in other spaces just absolutely against lame duck. I just can't stand lame duck. I think it's one of the worst features of a full-time legislature is that they get this little window where they don't feel accountable for the things that they're going to do, or not accountable in the same way. The energy package is probably the least offensive thing they were working on this time, but there was a lot of other really crazy stuff that they were trying to rush through that would do damage to the state, and then the people who did it would just waltz off into the sunset. That's just not a way to make. That's not a way to make policy. The counter argument, though, is that in an era of stagnation and not being able to move anything forward, that it finally gives somebody a chance to get something done.
Well, I mean, this was the most appropriate piece of legislation to pass in lame duck because it had been thoroughly debated over the last 2 years. There had been compromises and give and take. Yeah. They had went through the normal policy making process, and we wrote in the beginning that lame duck ought to pass this and just go home. It's a very significant piece of legislation, and had they not passed it, all that work they've done over the last couple of years would have had to start over in January because a lot of these folks are gone.
Are leaving.
One of the things that didn't come out, though, Stephen, was we had an effort at brownfield legislation. Yeah. We also had some tax packages that Dan Gilbert was really hoping would come out of Lansing, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, well, and again, if these are great ideas, and maybe they are, let's talk about them in the new legislature. Let's have hearings, open hearings that people can go to. Let's ask questions about how these things are structured. The idea that these should come up and get voted on again when legislators feel like they've got a free pass, there's something really dangerous about that, and we've seen, really controversial stuff get rammed through before during these sessions.
Let's talk. In fact, I was about to ask you what we expect out of them in 2017. We'll say that you're both going to be here on New Year's Day. We'll save that as we look ahead. Let's talk a little bit about what we know about what's going on right now in Washington. We had. You'd have to be a pretty cold-hearted person not to have watched those videos that some of these rebels made out of Aleppo this past week. And I think it put in. Now, anybody who is involved in a civil war, there's a risk in that, and it's not going to end well for the losing side. But I think it put into stark relief a little bit here, Nolan, the times in which we live, and now watching Donald Trump fashioning the team that has to deal with all of that at a time when we're very, very conflicted about our relationship with Russia. What was your takeaway this week?
Well, it's a complete failure of Middle East policy by this administration. Remember, the guy who is killing those people and who is now back in control for the most part of Syria is the same person, Bashar al-Assad, whom Barack Obama drew a line in the sand before and then did nothing, was completely impotent in the face of his carnage. Russia is now becoming the dominant player in that region. I think Donald Trump has little choice now but to try to strike a deal with Russia and work with Russia and try to figure this out. But at some point, Assad has to go. He is a butcher.
Well, but and this is where your assessment of what the president did is a little off. I mean, what would you have had him do? What would you have had? Would you commit troops?
Well, he could have created
Syria?
He could have created safe spaces in Syria. He certainly could have provided ground cover for the rebels. I mean, there was a lot he could have done. Yeah. But if there was nothing he could do, why on the earth did he draw a line in the sand?
That was the mistake. It was drawing the line in the sand and setting up this sort of standoff when you're dealing with an irrational actor, someone like Assad. Going forward, Donald Trump, I think, has real pitfalls here to step in, and has already started to step in some of them with his relationship, or the relationship he says he wants, with Vladimir Putin, who is another irrational actor in that region and in others. This idea that somehow you can strike a deal or that transactional diplomacy will work to check Russian aggression is a fantasy, and it's really, really absurd. It puts us back to pre-World War I.
Well, the reset button didn't work.
International. I mean,
the last administration's approach was an absolute failure, and now we are in a situation with Russia where our militaries don't communicate. The chance of a confrontation is much greater, and accidental bumping into each other. So I mean, those relations have completely deteriorated.
But you've had several presidents in a row be confounded by Vladimir Putin. George Bush says, "I looked into his eyes, I sat there, and I saw a good man." And then gets betrayed by him in the Balkans.
No disagreement.
President Obama also has a difficult relationship with him. The idea, though, that the solution is deal-making, which is what the president-elect says he wants to do, I think indulges.
But they both both administrations underestimated Putin. Hillary Clinton showed up in Moscow with that silly reset button, and they told her to stick it where the sun don't shine. I mean, neither one of these administrations has fully taken the measure of Vladimir Putin.
It's complicated.
What do we do with this information then that Russia, who you're trying to forge this new relationship with, was somehow working to hack the election, though it's difficult to tell exactly what they did.
I think you retaliate if indeed
retaliate in what way?
If indeed you can prove that that's true, and there's still a lot of lack of verification there. But you start shutting down the computer systems until they hurt and get the message. You can't just sit there and let them meddle with our elections, with our politics, with our computer networks, and not retaliate. You've got to do something. Joe Biden said 3 months ago, we're going to respond, and here we sit.
What do you do if you've got a president-elect though who doesn't believe that any of it happened?
Well, you've got to verify this. There's the CIA has not come out on the record and presented its evidence and said this happened. Until they do that, you can't do anything.
Congress will get them
unless you do it covertly.
Congress will get them to that space, but
if they testify.
But the bigger question is what kind of retaliation actually works. So the embargo in Russia has been hurting the Russian people. All the while, Vladimir Putin continues to do all of the things that he wants to do. In the Balkans, in the Middle East, this idea that retaliation somehow will again check him it assumes a rational actor on that side,
and it
which
does
you don't
that.
have.
But Russian technology is nowhere near what ours is. Our ability to move in there and start shutting down systems that would cause real pain, banking systems, etc., that would cause real pain to Vladimir Putin. We need to exercise it. That's what Biden said we were going to do.
I got to get to a break. As we ponder what cyber warfare like that would look like or what it would mean, we'll be right back with more. This is Flashpoint on Local 4. You ready to provoke that?
I'm an actual rescued tomato, which means I'm just as fresh as any other tomato. I can still be sliced or even smashed in the ketchup. I wasn't a real pickle until Forgotten Harvest came along. They rescued me, along with millions of other tomatoes from grocers, and put us in the hands of Metro Detroit's hungry. Ooh, gotta go.
You can help us feed the hungry. Please donate today at ForgottenHarvest.org or call now at 888-332-7140.
Don't forget to donate.
Hello, you've reached the voicemail of Doug Blanchard.
I'm not available to take your call right now, but if you'd like to leave
a message, I'll get back to you.
Not available. No. I'll get back to you as soon as I.
Oh, God. I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Make time for the time of your life at Motor City Casino Hotel.
2016 may be coming to a close, but the savings are just beginning during the Big Finish event, only at Galling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Lease the 2016 Dodge Journey RT, $229 a month for employees, $259 a month friends and family. Or the 2017 Ram SLT Bighorn 4x4, $239 a month for employees, $299 friends and family.
Come experience the Galling difference today.
Located on Telegraph just north of Square Lake in Bloomfield Hills.
Let's face it, mornings can be a mess. We know because we're morning people, and no matter what kind of morning person you are, this is your time on Local 4 News Today. We keep moving to keep you moving. If you're thinking about it, we're talking about it. So to you who can never get out of the door on time, and to you who always has time to stop for coffee, Morning People Unite. This is your time, and this is your place. Detroit mornings start here. Local 4 News Today.
Welcome back. Nolan just said something interesting during the break. You said that you can't allow yourself to be manipulated by bad behavior. I think we're seeing that playing out in a lot of places right now. China is apparently militarizing some of these man-made islands to a degree that we didn't know before.
And they're doing that in response to an aggressive move by the president-elect. That phone call with the Taiwanese president says to them, well, this is, if they feel like there is an irrational actor on this side, they will behave more irrationally. They've
been building and militarizing those islands.
I'm not sure that happened
for months.
And I'm thinking of the bomber flight over the nuclear bomber flight.
But the message that sent was, we're not going to sit here and ignore everything you do while we acquiesce to everything you request. I think that was that move with Taiwan was very strategic and very important to tell them, look, we are not going to dance to your tune, and we can't.
So the response is that they fly a nuclear bomber over islands that they think they probably ought to own. What's the next step? I don't think you can sit here and cower and say, China, we're not going to check you in any way, do what you want, and meanwhile we're going to let you steal our intellectual property, we're going to let you manipulate your currency, and we're going to let you continue to threaten Taiwan. I will look forward to your grandson fighting that war that you're going to start.
I got to leave it there. I knew you wouldn't agree through the whole conversation.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you as well. We'll see you next week, which is our Christmas Day edition of Flashpoint. Meet the Press coming up next right after Mitch Albom's Heart of Detroit.